All right, so have you ever been out hiking, right? And you see like a really cool rock and you get this weird thought like,
Mm.
I wonder what this tastes like.
Uh,
Does this taste like the dirt it came from?
okay, well, that's not something I get asked every day. So there's actually a surprising amount of science behind that.
Right.
Seemingly simple curiosity.
That's what we're looking at today, this study called Geo-Gustatory Perception. Does licking a rock taste like the ground? And it's like way more in-depth than you think.
Absolutely. And I think what's captivating about this research is that they went beyond just the yes or no question.
Right.
They really wanted to understand the nuances of how our sense of taste interacts with geological materials.
So walk me through this. Where do you even start with a study like that?
They started with what they called the Geo-Gustatory Hypothesis, or GGH.
Okay.
The basic idea is that a rock's flavor would closely resemble the soil it's been hanging out in for ages, right?
Right, all those minerals seeping in.
All those minerals, yeah.
So how do they actually test that?
Yeah.
Like, did they just grab random rocks and have people lick them?
It was surprisingly systematic. They chose rocks from 5 very distinct environments.
Okay.
Deserts, forests, coastal regions, you name it. And they had 50 volunteers participate in blind taste tests.
Wait, blind taste tests for rocks?
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a lineup of pebbles.
Pretty much.
And people like swirling them in their mouth like it's fine wine.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the rocks themselves. They also created what they called geo-broth, which is basically a mixture of the soil from each location suspended in water.
Oh, wow.
So the tasters had to try both the rocks and the broth.
Oh, my God.
And describe what they were getting.
That's dedication to scientific inquiry.
Right.
But how do you even measure taste in a standardized way, especially when it comes to dirt and rocks?
That's where things get really clever.
Okay.
They developed this tool called the Earthy Sensory Palatability Index, or ESPI.
ESPI.
It let them quantify the intensity of the taste, identify specific flavor notes, and even track how long the aftertaste lingered.
So they weren't messing around. This was like...
No, legitimate.
It was very rigorous.
Very rigorously designed.
Yeah.
All to see if a rock tastes like dirt. What a time to be alive.
And the findings were pretty fascinating, too.
Okay.
So they discovered that 68% of the tasters did detect what they called mineral forward notes in the rocks. But here's the twist. Only about a third of them could actually match a rock to its corresponding soil sample.
So there is some connection there, but it's not as straightforward as you'd think.
Yeah, it's not as simple as we thought.
What were some of the standout flavors?
Oh, there were some gems.
Yeah.
Forest rocks often got described as tasting like a damp basement.
Damp basement? Okay. This makes sense in a strange way.
Yeah.
But the real kicker was the coastal rocks.
Yeah.
Those were consistently described as tasting like salty despair.
Salty despair. Wow.
Yeah.
That's strangely specific.
Yeah.
Did they analyze the rocks and soil?
They did.
Or did they just rely on people's descriptions?
They did both. So they used some pretty high-tech methods like gas chromatography and microflora analysis to compare the chemical makeup of the rocks and soil samples.
Interesting.
And what they found was intriguing. Some compounds were definitely shared, but there were also significant variations, especially in the organic material. So this led them to believe that the microbes present, among other environmental factors, play a big role in shaping a rock's flavor profile.
So it's not just about the minerals themselves, but also like the microscopic world living on and around the rock?
Exactly.
That's crazy. I hadn't considered that.
And here's another fascinating tidbit. They uncovered that rocks with a higher concentration of bacteria actually tended to taste more umami,
Hold on.
Yeah.
You're telling me bacteria can make a rock taste more delicious?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say delicious is the right word, but it certainly adds to the complexity of the flavor. But there's one more twist to this story that I find particularly interesting.
Lay it on me.
Volcanic rocks, specifically basalt, consistently tasted aggressively neutral.
Aggressively neutral.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
So if volcanic rocks are packed with minerals, shouldn't they have like a more intense flavor?
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
But that's the curious part. It seems like the mineral composition alone can't fully explain why rocks taste the way they do. So this led the researchers to propose a new theory, which they called the Terroir Adherence Theory.
I'm all ears. What is the Terroir Adherence Theory all about?
So it suggests that a rock's flavor is more heavily influenced by its immediate surroundings, like the specific types of bacteria living on it, the degree of oxidation, any little bits of stuff that have clung to it.
Okay.
Rather than just the general soil type of the area. So think of it like a forest rock taking on that damp basement note from the moss and fungi growing right on it, as opposed to just like the overall forest soil.
So it's not just about the grand geological history, but also the rock's like personal, up close and personal.
Exactly. It's like each rock has its own flavor fingerprint based on its little micro world.
Okay, so then that makes the aggressively neutral volcanic rocks even more interesting.
Yeah.
Does the terroir adherence theory explain that too?
It could be part of it. Volcanic rocks, especially basalt, are often very dense and don't have as many nooks and crannies for microbes to hang out in.
Oh.
So they might not develop that same level of flavor complexity.
So it's like they're too clean to pick up much flavor.
Maybe.
That's kind of a bummer. I was hoping for some like explosive volcanic flavor notes.
Well, who knows? Maybe there's a rare volcanic rock out there. With a secret flavor profile just waiting to be discovered.
Okay.
But it does raise another interesting question. Yeah. If our sense of taste is so influenced by these microscopic details, does that mean we're not very good at actually tasting the geology itself?
You mean like our taste buds are failing geology class?
Maybe.
Okay.
It seems like we might not be naturally equipped to distinguish between subtle flavor differences in rocks and dirt.
Yeah.
But there could be something else going on too, cognitive bias.
Oh, you mean like how our expectations can influence what we perceive?
Exactly. We go into this whole rock licking thing expecting it to taste earthy like dirt.
Right.
So even if there are nuances, our brains might just fill in the gaps and make it taste more dirt-like than it really is.
Okay.
Like with those coastal rocks, maybe the salty despair is partly our own doing.
So we're basically setting ourselves up for disappointment.
In a way, perhaps.
Our preconceived notions are ruining the rocky taste experience.
But that's what makes the study so fascinating. It's not just about whether rocks taste like dirt. It's about understanding how our senses, our expectations in the environment, all interact to shape our perception of the world.
Yeah, it's like this seemingly silly question about licking rocks has opened up a whole new level of sensory understanding.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here? Do we all need to start carrying around ESPI kits and rating the rocks we find?
Well, I don't think that's necessary just yet, but this research does pave the way for some really exciting possibilities.
Like what?
Imagine being able to taste the difference between rocks from different geological periods, like a Jurassic rock versus a Cretaceous one.
No, that would be a wild tasting menu.
Right.
What about training our palates to become expert rock tasters?
That's interesting.
Could we develop a geo-taste like sommeliers have for wine?
It's definitely an intriguing possibility.
Yeah.
Think about it. If we can train ourselves to pick up on subtle flavor notes in wine, why not in rocks?
We could have professional rock sommeliers guiding us through the nuances of a Precambrian schist or a Cambrian limestone.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's a bit far-fetched.
Right.
Jokes aside, there are some serious implications here for how we understand the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to use our refined geotaste to analyze environments or even discover new minerals based on their unique flavor profiles.
Okay, now we're talking sci-fi stuff.
Right.
But it's incredible to think that this simple question about licking rocks could lead to such groundbreaking discoveries.
And that's the beauty of science, isn't it? Sometimes the most unexpected questions lead us to the most profound insights.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder what other hidden sensory worlds are out there just waiting to be explored.
So licking rocks is more than just a childhood quirk.
Right.
It's potentially a gateway to a whole new way of experiencing and understanding our planet.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even something as seemingly mundane as a rock can hold incredible secrets waiting to be unlocked by our senses and our curiosity.
I, for one, would welcome the rise of rock sommeliers.
Yeah.
Just imagine like the tasting notes, like hints of petrified fern with a lingering aftertaste of tectonic uplift.
Exactly.
But in all seriousness, this research really does encourage us to look at the world around us with like fresh eyes.
Absolutely.
Or maybe fresh taste buds.
It's a powerful reminder that there's still so much we don't know about our planet and our own senses.
Right. And sometimes like the most seemingly bizarre questions can lead us to the most profound discoveries.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners, the next time you're out exploring, consider the rocks around you. They're not just inert lumps of minerals. They're complex, dynamic entities.
Right.
With their own stories to tell, both in terms of their geological history and the subtle flavors they hold.
Maybe you'll even be inspired to do a little field research of your own.
Yeah.
Just remember to take notes on those flavor profiles.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to discover the next big breakthrough.
Exactly.
In the fascinating world of sensory geology.
It's exciting.
Until then, keep those taste buds curious. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.